There we go.
And
all right,
there's
Sandy,
got it.
it's all yours.
Thank you, Sean. So good evening, everyone. I just want to thank you guys all for popping on in and joining us for this hour of question and answers and discussion about supporting inclusion with invisible varying abilities. Any questions you have, I'm going to have you put them in the chat box down below, and that way we can read those off and address them to the particular people that we have. I'm going to go through and let each person, I'm going to pull up their slide and we'll let them introduce themselves and give a little bit about who they are and where they came from. And then we'll start doing presentations and we'll have time for question and answers when everybody finishes with their presentation. So we'll read those out of the chat room. And again, I just would like to welcome everybody for being here. This is our first go around at this, so bear with us. And one thing I did want to mention, a little housekeeping, is this is being run from Connecticut. Any of our folks that are licensed representatives or anything like that, they are speaking from a Connecticut standpoint of their licensure board. So we need to be careful if you guys are in another state or country, because we do have a little bit of both. Just be aware of that, that's when those statements are being said, I will probably circle back around and just make point to that those are a Connecticut licensure thing. So with that, I'm going to go to the next slide. So real quick, here's some resources that we felt were really important when we were putting this together. And we will send this out to everybody. We'll email the slides out to you so you have everybody's information that was here. But the first one is our Facebook page for Connecticut Rivers Council Scouting with Special Needs. The next one is the national page for ablescouts.org. That is their main web page where you can find a lot of great resources. You can sign up for the Abilities Digest, which is a quarterly newspaper that comes out with all kinds of articles and information. The next thing that we've come out with is, you'll hear a lot of reference back to this, is the toolbox. So that is at ablescouts.org. The toolbox has replaced the 175-page manual that we once had. It is a living document. You can download it to PDF and keep it on your phone or your tablet, whatever you would like. And in the future, I am going to have the person from National come on. Mike and I will work with them and have them come on and help have a discussion on that. So anybody who goes through that and has questions on how that's working. The last one is the National Scouting National page. That is the page that also has all your resources for disabilities awareness for the National Committee. Okay, Sean, next slide.
Sorry, I had two people hop in the waiting room. Give me a second.
Yep.
Here we go. Yep.
All right, so our first presenter tonight is Elena Fader Hurlbert. We'll let you tell us about yourself and what all those initials stand for and what brings you here and what you do at NEAT. Thank you for joining us.
You got it. Thank you so much for having me today. Yes, so I'm Elena Fader Hurlbert. Those letters after my name, as you just mentioned, represents myself as a speech language pathologist. So I do have a background in supporting people with communication differences, and I am currently the Director of Assistive Technology Services at the NEAT Center, which is part of Oak Hill. We are based in Hartford, Connecticut, and serve people throughout Connecticut and beyond. I do have a slide presentation. Do you want me to go into that right now or wait for other panelists to be introduced and circle back?
Why don't we go through the rest of our panelists and then we'll circle back to you and let you start off the program.
Perfect. Thank you.
You're welcome. So Sean, next slide. All right, the next person we have to introduce is our none other than from Connecticut Rivers Council, Carolyn Janis, and she too has some initials, alphabet soup there after her name. So Carolyn, thank you for joining us tonight, and we'll let you say a little bit about yourself. Carolyn, we can't hear you. Oh, Carolyn. Right, so I guess we'll go on to the next person and we'll circle back around when Carolyn comes back on. Our next person that we'd like to introduce to our panel is Mike Duff. Mike Duff has been a participant and a member of our committee for quite some time. But Mike, why don't you go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself?
Well, thank you, Sandy. I do appreciate it. As Sandy said, I'm Mike Duff. I've been on the committee for about, I tried to do the math. It's been over 3 years at this point. I am, and I know you probably cannot tell because of the Zoom screen, but I have a physical disability. I have what's called spina bifida. So what happened was, to make a long story short, there was a hole in the size of larger than my hand in my back that was open, and you could see my spine, my spinal cord, and all of that, and that's how I was born. And what that caused me to have spasms almost of my lower extremities, my feet, my legs. And so what the doctors did was they went in and they cut my spinal cord so that would not happen. So that's why I am in a wheelchair, and I don't feel from about my chest level down. So whatever happens down there, I've got to be really careful that I don't bump my feet or my legs, or that I've got to be really careful that I watch for a skin change or a sore or something like that. But I've been I'm also inclusion specialist. I've had a numerous amount of inclusion trainings, if you will. I went through in high school. I did a theater program for students with all abilities. I've done another training for individuals who would be working with other individuals with disabilities, whether they were a pediatrician, a social worker, a OTPT, whatever falls under that umbrella of working with people with disabilities. So I was there as a trainee to give my experience of what it was like being a person with a disability and that whole life experience. I also have done another program similar to that, but in relation to laws and how to build laws around people with disabilities. So, with all that being said, I want to thank you for having me, Sandy and Sean, and I want to thank everyone for listening to my speech. Thank you so much. And if you have any questions, we will be glad to answer them either in the chat or in person later on over Zoom.
And I have just one more piece to add that Mike forgot to tell about himself. He is an illustrious Eagle Scout. So yes, he has made it through the program and done so sparkingly, wonderfully. And a lot of accommodations and different things. So he's also very familiar with that aspect of scouting also. So next slide, Sean. So last but not least is Sean's jumping here. In closing, we're done. No, I'm joking, folks. So the next person is myself, Sandra Payne. I am the chair of Connecticut Rivers Council Scouting with Special Needs. I've been doing this for a few more years than I probably would like to admit to. In the last 3 years, I have also been a volunteer member of the National Special Needs and Disabilities Committee. My specific area is membership growth and development. I have done some trainings with them down at Seabase. We did some camp supports and different things like that. So we definitely have a lot of expertise on this panel tonight. Carolyn, I'm looking at your face right now. Carolyn, can you tell us a little bit about you now? Can you hear us?
Yes, I apologize.
Nope, you're fine.
Scout is always flexible, right? So
There
I will
you
just
go.
say that if anything, it helps to keep me humble. So I apologize for location and delayed, but my name is Carolyn. I am a school-based social worker in the Portland School Districts here in Connecticut. Prior to that, I was at the Institute of Living. So I've had kind of lots of opportunities to work within the clinical realm of schools. My specialty is play therapy. So I tend to use a lot of interactions that are developmentally engaging and really has a lot of elements of fun. And believe it or not, a lot of leaders can learn and play together and have fun, and to incorporate that into scouting has really become kind of a mission. I don't know about anybody else, but I like to think of like where my life impact is. And, one realm is work and another realm is scouting. And if anything that the pandemic has taught us, in my opinion, that the kids need scouting more than ever before. They need a place where they can have trusted adults that can work with them in their goals. They need somebody cheerleading them on, saying, you are really good at this, or did you wonder what it would feel like when you're outside, and making sure that my personal motto is that there's room around the fire for everybody, and making sure that we are making awareness to our leaders and training our leaders and our parents about how to make scouting safe and welcoming for all. Within my practice, I would say the biggest issues and concerns that I see are loneliness and isolation, as well as a lot of anxiety. There's not a lot of risk taking. And so for me, I think that scouting can allow kids to be vulnerable and to take risks with appropriate supports to cheer and support them on. So I'm grateful for your flexibility and your understanding of it being a different venue than I would have wanted it to be, but know that I'm grateful that this opportunity has been available to people to really be talking about what disabilities may or may not look like, and how do we interact, and how do we make sure that we're using corrective language and all of those things to making people feel welcome from the get-go.
Thank you so much, Carolyn. And Carolyn has been a great resource. She's written some great articles that we've published. I think the one that hit home the most was about bullying. You can check those out on our Facebook page. And if you're really interested in seeing them, I can also email them to you. I have them in my files. So with that being said, I'm going to switch back over to Elena and let her start her presentation. Go ahead, Elena.
Thank you so much, Sandy. So I'm going to go ahead and share here. Just give me the old thumbs up if you can see.
There you go. I see your logo.
Great, excellent. Okay, so I'm going to just take this opportunity to share a little bit more about myself, as well as the NEAT Center in Oak Hill. I have some slides prepared, but I'm definitely interested in getting to the questions at the end and seeing how specifically I can help to target your assistive technology needs. So I'll try to go through this, but here I am again, Elena Hurlbert. As I said, I am a speech language pathologist. I worked at the NEAT Center for about 5 years as an AAC specialist, and I'll get into what AAC means, for about 5 years before I became the director. And now I oversee a team of specialists who I will show to you in just a moment. I know that Sandy had my contact information up on your screen. here it is again. I'm also prepared to send this slide deck out to maybe Mike as the point of contact if you want to disseminate it. I'm always looking to connect with people after these presentations. I definitely don't want the conversations to stop tonight. So please feel free to reach out at any time. So I work for Oak Hill. Oak Hill is our larger partner agency. And I would say that the best way to think about Oak Hill is for our group homes and our classrooms, but we also have small specialized centers. So collectively with our group homes, our classrooms, and our Oak Hill centers, we are the largest nonprofit service provider for people with disabilities in the state of Connecticut. So we really reach people of all abilities, all ages, in very unique areas and specialized ways. So here's the Oak Hill specific website if you're interested in learning more about Oak Hill as our large agency. Now, I mentioned our Oak Hill centers. These are smaller specialized centers that focus on very unique areas that might be of interest to people. So as I said, we serve people across their lifespan. We want to make sure that we're serving people in schools, in employment settings, in their homes, out in the community. So our specialized centers really target those areas, right? What's meaningful in somebody's life. This slide here, and these are hyperlinks. So again, if you get access to this presentation afterwards, feel free to click on these links and learn even more about each of these centers. But the first Oak Hill Center I wanted to mention tonight is the Center for Relationship and Sexuality Education, CRSE. So this center focuses on helping individuals of all abilities learn about their bodies, learn about how to form healthy relationships, how to prevent abuse if you have a particular disability, which might make you a little bit more vulnerable. So a lot of really great advocacy, awareness, educational tools. So again, while I know we're focusing on scouting tonight, I think it's important to think about other ways that you might need to be educating the scouts in your programs and things like that. So I know that's a very unique area, but might be of interest to you in some way. So feel free to, again, check out that link and learn more. Another Oak Hill Center is our summer camps and recreation. So we have two facilities. One is Camp Hemlocks in Hebron, Connecticut. One is Camp Harkness down in Waterford, Connecticut. And in the summertime, we have accessible camps that run all summer long with different groups of people that can come in and just really enjoy some fun camp-like activities in a completely accessible environment. We do run other programs throughout the year, but it is, the summer is our big time for those camps. So again, the link is there if that's kind of ringing a bell for you. Another center is our Eleanor A. Brooks Blindness Support Center, which focuses on assistive technology for people with low vision and blindness. And then lastly, New England Assistive Technology, or NEAT, which is the center that I work for directly. I'll get into a little bit more of the different components of NEAT now. But if any of those Oak Hill centers, again, kind of like sparked your interest of like, oh, I kind of want to learn a little bit more about that. That email address at the bottom, centersconnect@oakhillct.org. Just shoot us an email there. Let us know what you're looking for, and we'll point you in the right direction to get more information.
So one of the things I'm going to jump in here is at the summer camps and recreation at Camp Hemlock, Scott is, and I apologize, I don't remember his exact title, but Scott is a wonderful person who manages the facility out there. They do have a pool that has been open for, they rent it out. You do have to provide swimming instructors, lifeguards, that type of thing, which is nothing that we're not used to.
Okay.
But it is an indoor heated pool. Believe me, it is warm in there when I was in there. The other part is they do have a traditional, what we're used to in our Boy Scout camps, small campsite out back. They are always open and available for a small fee to rent that out. And to take and let units come out there and camp and get an idea of what fully accessible truly means. And they're always looking for, a good turn daily. They're always looking for some type of project to be done. Sorry for the jump in, but I'll turn it back over to you, Elena.
That. No, I appreciate you pointing that out, Sandy, because you're right. Like I said, it's a fully accessible facility. So if it's, you're looking for a location, it's beautiful, it's out in the woods, there's accessible hiking trails. So definitely reach out to us if that's something that might be working, or, something that you want to work out for your programming. And I do see a question here in the chat that I'm happy to kind of jump in and answer. The question is, do you support adaptive archery and shooting sports? I actually don't know the answer to that directly, since I don't work, for the summer camps and recreation, but I know that they do have tons and tons of accessible sports. So again, feel free to reach out to that Centers Connect email directly, and I'm sure they would have the answer for you.
And I believe they do have, when I've been out there walking around, they do have an archery and a climbing tower. So they do have some of those recreational activities. We are actually privileged here tonight to have Chris St. Pierre, another committee member, on joining us for this meeting, who is an archery. Chris, you want to jump in real quick and tell us your title?
Yes, I am the Cub Shooting Sports Director unofficially, but I do archery. I'm fully certified in archery through USA Archery. I am trained in BB rifle and slingshot. And as a part of the leadership program called Wood Badge, I'm actually writing the adaptive archery and shooting sports manual. I was just asking that question earlier, see if maybe I had another piece that I could bring into it. So I want to make the
absolutely.
best.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I would strongly encourage you to reach out to that email, and we'll get you to the right person who can answer that for you.
All right. Thank you very much.
Yeah, you got it. Okay. All right, I'm going to keep moving along, and I'm going to, not cover everything. I want to make sure everyone else has time and there's time for questions. So I'll keep moving here. Just a quick overview. This is the NEAT team. Everyone on the team has a unique area of expertise within the field of assistive technology. So whether it be assistive technology to support people with dyslexia and learning disabilities, maybe a disability that, as we say, is not visible, right? You can't physically see it, but it's still present. Focusing on assistive technology for physical access to the environment, access to academics, access to communication, access to independent living. So really any area of need that somebody might have, our team here is very specialized in figuring out what types of technology can help somebody to meet that need, meet that goal, whatever it may be, again, across settings and across the lifespan. So I do want to quickly define assistive technology. I keep mentioning it, but it might be a term that's new to you. So by definition, assistive technology is any item, piece of equipment, or tool, whether acquired commercially off the shelf, modified, or customized, that is used to increase, maintain, or improve the functional capabilities of an individual with a disability. So I know that's a mouthful of a definition, but essentially what it means is finding technology that can help somebody accomplish something that otherwise they wouldn't be able to do. Maybe they wouldn't be able to do it at all. Maybe they can do a task, but it's very difficult or very time consuming or fatiguing. So technology can help to, help that person accomplish that goal. All right. Examples here, I just want to point out to kind of conceptualize it a little bit more. Assistive technology could be something like switches and adapted toys for a child with with cerebral palsy or some kind of physical disability where they can't manipulate their environment to learn. Assistive technology adapted toys can help them to engage, learn cause and effect, and be able to understand the power of what they can do. Another example is a student with low vision can read using a device that maybe enlarges the text for them or gives them high contrast colors. There are different iPad apps and computer software that somebody can press messages to communicate if they can't communicate verbally. So just quick examples here. And assistive technology is not just the item itself, but also the training, right? As you probably all know, with just general technology, you can't just get it out of the box, push go, and you're ready, all set to use it. There's oftentimes a lot of training that's involved. So again, as we're thinking about scouting and what types of technology somebody might need to engage in the different activities and to learn, just know that, you might need a tool as well as a little bit of support to get going with that tool. All right. Let's see, there's a continuum of assistive technology. It can be low tech, which is kind of like paper-based things, a little bit cheaper, less expensive, all the way up to what we call high tech. And again, that's more of like your computer-based, iPad-based, tablet-based options. All right, here's an example of a low-tech eye gaze board that somebody might use to communicate. It's a simple baseball card insert where you can put symbols and words into the different areas. The person might look through the eye gaze board, and their communication partner can watch to see where their eyes are going, to see what message they might want to be conveying. So it's easy to make, a quick way to get somebody started with communication. In comparison, I won't show this video, but again, you can feel free to visit that link yourself. This is an individual who's using eye gaze technology on a computer to communicate. And essentially your eyes become a computer mouse. So your eyes can, become the cursor on a screen the same way that your traditional hand mouse might. And then you can make selections on that screen to then say your message out loud. So these are just a couple of examples. There's so much in the world of assistive technology, but I want you to kind of understand when I say that term, what do I mean? All right, so here at the NEAT Center, we provide AT support across the lifespan, again, people with all abilities in these different areas that I have listed on the screen here. So general AT, AAC, as I mentioned earlier, that stands for augmentative and alternative communication. Smart home technology, so finding tools that can help somebody live more independently, age in place, not feel so isolated, not rely on so much caregiver support, things like, controlling the lights and the security cameras and the fans and the temperature, all those kinds of things. I mentioned the others. One additional one I do want to mention is gaming accessibility. So our team has lots of adapted video game controllers and adapted tools that somebody can use to engage in video games. So again, I know we're talking about scouting, getting outdoors, all the things, but it's, I think it's also important to know that, video gaming is such a big thing in our world, and we want to make sure it's accessible to anyone who might want to play and engage and socialize. So that's something that we can support as well. All right, so here's just a list of our services, evaluations, and consultations to identify what type of technology somebody might need, and then the training and coaching and implementation support as well. We have a lending library for people who pay an annual membership. They can borrow all this technology to see how it works for them, right? It's oftentimes expensive. We want to kind of try before you buy and see if it works for you. So if you're thinking about something that might be helpful or important for one of your scouts, contact us and we'll see if we can help you try it before you provide it to the individual.
Very nice, thank you.
You got it. Couple more here and then I'll wrap up. This is these are some images of our smart home on wheels. We call it the show. And essentially it's a tiny home. If you know the show Tiny Home. And it's outfitted with all types of smart home technology. So as I mentioned, technology that can help somebody live more independently. Everything is like, Alexa enabled, Google Home enabled, so that somebody could use their voice to control their home or use different tablets and things to live more independently. So we do demonstrations at our campus in Hartford. We also bring this tiny home on the road to different events and different facilities to show people what the technology can do. We have an upcoming free virtual tour of our smart home coming up on December 19th. All you have to do is register and you'll get the Zoom link to kind of see live all the cool technology that we have in this smart home. So one more component of NEAT that I really want to mention here is our adaptive equipment reuse program. So people can donate out in the community, people can donate used durable medical equipment to us, whether it's wheelchairs, walkers, standers, all types of equipment. They donate it to us. We have a team that sanitizes everything, refurbishes, cleans, make sure everything is in working order, and then we sell it for just a fraction of the cost of what it would be new. So this can be a great resource if you're looking for something that maybe isn't covered by insurance, or maybe you need 2 of something and they'll only cover 1, or something broke, please contact us. Stephanie Marquez, her email is up on the screen. She manages the program, and she'd be more than happy to help you figure out if we have equipment for sale that could help you, help your scouts, help your families, help yourself to be able to kind of maneuver your environment a little bit easier. All right, here's just some information about how you can work with us, how you get connected. Really, anybody can submit a referral. We can work with anybody. It's not like you need a special, doctor's note or referral or anything. But I just encourage you to reach out if you think that there's ways that we can support you. We have different webinars and educational opportunities if you're interested in learning more about assistive technology. All right, and here's just contact information again. I'd be happy to connect, whether it's connecting with me directly, connecting with one of our team members. So I think with that, I will wrap it up, but definitely interested and able to, stay on and answer any questions that might come up later on tonight. Okay,
Great,
thank you again for having me.
Thank you, Elena. I'm like writing down things over here that I have.
Great.
So I hope it's triggering everybody's thoughts on how we can help support things. I'm going to
Excellent.
move along to Carolyn. We're going to let Carolyn go ahead real quick. We have had, Carolyn, a couple of questions about ADHD and things like that. So I don't know if you kind of want to directly answer some of those in your conversation.
Yeah, I think I'm going to actually start there. I just want our abilities to being together, right? And to do live trainings together.
Carolyn, you're really lagging.
So let me just say thank you for this virtual had the opportunity. Let me try again. Can you hear any better? No?
Yep, there we go.
Okay. Sorry that I'm in an inopportune place, but what I was saying is that COVID really put a pause in our in-person trainings. And so I just want to reassure everybody that, my understanding is that we are moving back towards in-person trainings. We'll have scouting universities, we'll have, you might hear of them. They might be powwows. They may be called something different moving forward, but those opportunities are great places to learn about how to be leaders in this world of working with kids that might have different abilities. And so one of the great things about hearing about NEAT is that there are tools that can be available to our leaders if you happen to have a scout that may need some additional services or supports. In terms of what else we can offer is, as Sandy mentioned, we do have newsletters. We're often in our Connecticut Rivers posts that they give. Also, direct contact us if you have questions about a scout that you came here tonight. Any one of us would love to discuss that with you about how can we be supportive of that individual need, because I would argue that most people here tonight are thinking of one or two scouts that really are just like, how do I work with them? And I think what I would want to share in terms of specific diagnoses, if you have somebody that is working alongside with Oak Hill, or that they have a concern that allows them to have like an IEP, or they have a medical diagnosis, that really should be something that, if as a leader we know about, that is something that we can really help to making sure that scout has the tools available to them and their families. One of the things that they can have is an individual scouting plan. It's for advancement. It helps us to reassure that we are really taking in all of the scout and where they are at in this moment, right? What do I need in this moment to move forward? One of the things that I'm pretty proud about with scouting is that even at the cub level, there have been electives that are designed to be inclusive, right? We had the Cubs Who Care at the Wolf level, right? And it really is making sure that at that young level, that not only our cubs, but that our leaders are being mindful of what abilities might look like. What must we do in order to make it a welcoming environment, right? We offer experientials. We want to make sure that people can have those empathic responses, and not just as if it's somebody that's holding up a hike, right? Or somebody that is so distracting to our meetings, and we don't know what to do with them because they're running loops around the other kids. So I am pretty proud of BSA that we have merit badges and we have electives to ensuring that our kids are given that appropriate response. To what the question about leadership and training, I agree with you in terms of that there isn't always a lot that is offered, right? When we sign on to be leaders, it's an hour a week, right? And it is just a training about how you do your specific role. Unless I am wrong, and I believe me, my children will tell me I am very wrong many times. Unless I am wrong, there really isn't a whole heck of a lot outside of how to keep kids physically safe and to making sure that we're doing appropriate boundaries, right, with YPT. But I don't know that we really focused in a lot on our trainings for leadership positions around what do you do if you have somebody that has an autism diagnosis? What do you do if somebody has an ADHD diagnosis? And so for me, it's events like tonight and ones that you might find at university that are really going to dive in more to that. I'm going to attempt to share. If it doesn't share, I will get it out to everybody. And we will do it that way. But what I really wanted to share was, I don't know if it's going to go, but I will try. Let me know if you're seeing anything. Oops, other than my husband. Is everybody seeing this lovely screen right here? Not really.
No.
Can anybody give me a thumbs up if they are seeing what does the behavior mean? Not really. Oh, no. All right, I'll stop the share. What I wanted you to know is that if you can't see it, is that underneath every behavior, there is a meaning behind it. We may not be able to understand fully, but we're getting the big explosive behavior, right? Maybe we're getting the kids that are running laps, but underneath it, are we missing that their basic needs are not being met? Are they hungry? Are they overwhelmed? Are they missing the person that dropped them off and then ran to go and do something else, right? Are there social skills that they are kind of lagging yet and they just need some extra support in how to make a friend? Sometimes we get caught up as leaders in the behavior and how the behavior is disruptive to the group, right? And so we tend to get punitive, maybe even with the behavior and being like, would you just stop already? Could you just sit still for 5 seconds, right? And in those moments, I would say we've missed why the behavior is happening, because we're just kind of stuck on how it ruins our perfect den meeting. What I would also say is that for a leader, in order to see behind the behaviors, right, is we want that leader to set the expectation right away, right? We want them to model the behaviors that are desired. If you want somebody to be in control, that leader needs to be in control themselves, right? That's the first example is the leaders and the parents in the room. Maybe you're going to reframe how you give a directive. Maybe you're going to try to reach for those positives. You may have to dig a little bit deeper on some instances than others, but you're going to really want to try and focus in on what are they doing well. I'll take a pause for a second and just say that many of the kids that are probably running laps in your scouting events are probably running laps at school, at church, at whatever interactions they're in, and they may not have people that are willing to sit through that stuff with them. And if you can find a leader or a parent volunteer that's willing just to sit in that stuff with that child, maybe they walk the lap with them, right? Or maybe you know that they have a specialty, that they have great knowledge of space. There's a lot of ways that we can build in those specialties into our Cub Scouting program. I'll pause for a second and just say I had a young man who had just moved up from Florida, so was brand new to our pack. Didn't know him or his dad from a hole in a wall. And if I had to, I did know that he had an autism diagnosis, and he was from Cape Canaveral, so he had the most excellent stories and could talk for like 25,000 minutes about what it's like to see a rocket being launched off. And so we had him come in as a guest visitor one night to our Tigers event. So again, he was older. He's coming down to a younger group. Maybe the younger group is looking at him with those adoring eyes, like, oh, big kid's coming to talk to us. So we're using that strength of his size and his age, but then we really got to let him shine, because then he talked about rockets. And those kids who can be a little squirrely themselves were in rapture and awe that a bigger kid was talking to them about that. So again, really, really reaching for those positives. And allowing, if there's some flexibility around the timetables, right? Does everything need to be done on the way in which the leader had planned it to be, or can there be a little bit of flexibility around pace, if possible? Seeking out support, knowing that there are district members within councils that are here to help, that are usually people that have either their lives have been touched by disability, or they're advocates on some level. They probably are really great resources to not only being empathic and understanding and being like, I know what it's like. I know what it's like to have 5 kids and have 4 of them going off in different directions, and utilizing the resources that are available. I wanted to also share that sometimes when kids are struggling, maybe you have somebody who has more explosive behaviors, right? Maybe you have a scout that you are concerned with because on the last overnight, they got abusive in their language towards people, right? Sometimes our knee-jerk reaction is to be like, well, then they're just not allowed to come back, or mom and dad needs to come pick them up that night. And if we can practice the pause just enough to saying, what is the meaning behind this behavior? Is it because they didn't feel welcomed? Is it because they really wanted to light the fire and somebody else did it? Again, I'm making up some silly examples, but I think you get what I'm trying to say, is that if we can sit alongside and with them, it might really help us to retain them. It might help us to be able to stay at an event. Ross Green is really kind of, in my mind, the pillar of, he looked a lot at schools and children's experiences in schools. And he said in one of his quotes, challenging behaviors occurs when the demands and expectations being placed upon a child outstrip the skills they have to respond, right? When we think for a second about scouting, we are taking our very inside base world and trying to put it outside. We are taking experiences that maybe they have never had to hike before, right? Maybe hiking is uncomfortable. Maybe it's physically hard to breathe because they have asthma, right? Or maybe they're just like me and they're really out of shape. But when we are presenting them with a new skill, we have to be able to backpedal and give them support around that. So my last kind of thought would be, is number 1, to know that you are not alone. 2, to know that I know that this is not what you signed up for some days, right? There are some days where you might go home and it can be really defeating. So making sure that you have a support system within your leadership, that you are talking about your stop, starts, or continues, right? Like, what worked tonight at this meeting? What do we need to change for next time? And why should we never, ever let Gaga Pit ever come back again? I'm making fun. But really, what I will end with is that our kids need scouting more than ever before. They need safe places where they can have fun and engage and play. If they have additional needs outside of what our scout book or guide to safe scouting is saying we can do, just know that we can add in an additional layer of support with the scouting, individual scouting plan or for advancement. And that there's people here to help you to create that document if so. Thank you.
Thank you, Carolyn. There's, just so much that can be said further. And one thing I have picked up on this, looking at the questions and stuff, we are going to need to do a more in-depth discussions here. So please know we're not going anywhere. We will be having more programs. I am going to turn it over to Mike Duff. We'll give Mike about 10 minutes. Mike, is that good for you?
I can try to work it in, yeah.
All right, and then we'll go
find
to any other questions and then close it out. Okay?
Yeah.
Go ahead, Mike.
Well, thank you so much. Again, my name is Mike Duff, and I want to thank the presenters, Elena and Carolyn, so far. I want to give kudos to both of you because you have done such an amazing job in presenting. I hope I can do just as good as you are. But I did want to actually share some documents with you all. And again, these will all be within, these will all be sent to you within an email. And there are other places you can find these. So this is the Eagle Scout rank application. And I wanted to point this out because in some of these smaller areas of writing, you will see refer to such and such a document. I know there's, like, for example, there's a guide to advancement right at the bottom of the paragraph, right after explanations in their age requirement eligibility. There's also something that Carolyn touched on, which is, this is the document here. It is the individual scouting advancement plan, the ISAP. And that is very self-explanatory. It's very important to read, very important to fill out. You can fill out for a scout, for adventure, for a Sea Scout, for a Cub Scout. There's very specific ways to fill these out. And there's instructions for all of it. Please read the instructions. There's also, as I referred to in the Eagle requirement, this next page is the guide to advancement. And you'll see it's kind of a long 97 pages. There's the BSA mission statement, the aim of scouting, and then you will see different things on mandated procedures, policy, guide to Sea Scouting, which I believe Carolyn referred to, and then what is a unit leader mean, the BSA handbook, and then there's contents, and it's broken out into sections, and yeah, this is a wonderful document because you'll get your answers to everything in here and in others. There's also something that says requests for registration beyond the age of eligibility. So for your scout that may not be able to do a requirement to, do a requirement or do the Eagle Scout rank by the age of 18, you can go and have them coded beyond the age of eligibility. Again, there's a criteria, there's a required documents list, there's a number of how to register a member, so it's very self-explanatory again. So another beautiful, wonderful document. All of these documents, application for alternative Eagle Scout rank merit badges. Again, there's an application that you got to fill out, and there's the purpose of the Eagle Scout Award. There's how do you go about reading this document? What is this document? Things like that. Then there's the alternate, at Scout tender for second class and first class, alternative ranks requirements. So you can, there are ways that there is the ability to exchange or change some of the requirement. You cannot substitute, but there are, you can make alternate routes for your Scout. There's also the inclusion toolbox, which is quite a large document. Again, it's 257 pages. Again, there are the contents. There's broken up into module sections. And there's answers to your questions within this as well. And then a introduction to working with Scouts with special needs and disabilities. With this one, this, again, introduction, contents, all that broken up in a section. You can find your answers in this one. But I do believe, and Sandy, correct me if I'm wrong, there is a updated version of this specific document, correct?
Let me take a quick look at, I think they just updated it. You would find it at the bottom link that I gave you at the national site. I believe they just kind of proved it. It's still about 7 pages long. It's very brief. We've had a lot of questions, ADHD, all of that type of stuff. Seriously, go jump into the toolbox. It covers a lot of things that we can't get into on our tight schedule. But we most certainly will also circle back around and have another fireside chat here on this. Go ahead,
And
Mike.
one final thing, if I have a little bit more time, Sandy,
Yep.
is I found something off of the internet or off the phone. I'm sorry, I can't share it because I have it in this document right here. It's something I found on the web or on a Facebook post somewhere, I don't know. But it said, and this is so important, it says, nothing is absolute in Scouting. Changes can be made to address the kind of disability or ability. It is up to the Scout leadership to decide how to handle a disability or ability. Scouting is supposed to be a learning experience. Most things can be handled by your local council, or in some cases may need to go to the national office. The main thing is to describe exactly word for word what the issue is and involve your child's doctor. Absolutely important to say that you need a note from your doctor, if necessary, and changes will be made to accommodate the issue as seen fit. And with that, I want to thank you so much. I will turn it over to the next person, and I want to thank you for listening. And if you have any questions, please put them in the comments, or you can email us later and we'll be happy to speak with you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mike. And most certainly, if we don't get to your question, or, we are respectful of your time, I will most certainly hang out a little bit of extra time if somebody has specific questions, or you can email us at the ctriveraccessibility@gmail.com. And if you have a question for Mike or Carolyn or Elena or whoever, you can send it there and I will send it. I will forward it to the appropriate person. I think we've been trying to keep track of the questions that have been coming in. We've had several personal questions and I think instead of going through the chat room right now, we're pretty much done presenting. If somebody has a question, most certainly unmute yourself. We're going to do this very nicely and respectfully. And quick questions, and we'll answer if we can. And if not, we will take your information and most certainly answer you back. All right, there's a little bit of dead silence here, so I'm going to fill it. If you come up with a question, go ahead and jump in. Just say, excuse me. So I'm going to kind of wrap this up as we're waiting if anybody else has questions. Elena, thank you so much. There are so many things that you have triggered in my head one of the things, and we have scouts, and I'll mention that while we're all together, we have a program in the scouting, Mike touched on it a little bit, where we can register our scouts beyond the age of eligibility when they have a significant need. One of the things that happens is when they turn 18, they are treated as an adult, even though they're still working on their Eagle ranks. So that means taking youth protection. I don't know if you've seen our youth protection or have heard about the video, but it does come with a warning on it that it can trigger some PTSD and lapses like that. So it's very honest and forward. Some of the things that you hit on about the CRSC program, that could be a great connection there to help kids navigate that without having to go through the actual video or different things. So that's one of the things that's clicking in my head.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And if I could just respond to that quickly, Sandy. Yeah, so we have like adapted curriculums to teach all about your bodies and sexual health and how do you form healthy relationships. So yeah, I mean, I think that could be a really good connection for you guys to make as it's relevant for some of your scouts.
Most certainly. And Camp Hemlock, I already mentioned about the campsite and pool,
Sure.
the lending library. What an awesome way. Guys, remember that book that they had, Elena called it like a very basic, it's not technology, but it's a book with the little pictures. Great, great, great way to help with your scouts that need that programming or that predictability about, okay, we're doing this, we're doing this, we're doing this, and
Right.
let them move the trigger. And there's a lot of ways to adapt that. And please, if you're having to build something like that, get a hold of me. We will find somebody where some of those, the clip art and stuff like that is already out there. The one thing I did not put on our hit list of sites is No Scout Left Behind on Facebook. There's one woman that has been posting up a lot of stuff that would tick these boxes that can help you for somebody who has learning disabilities, autism, and things like that, those invisible disabilities, which are so hard to address because they are exactly that, so many times invisible, and people don't understand. Go ahead, Mike.
The one thing I will add about in my presentation that I've given is all of these documents that I've shown to you can be found on the Scouting BSA website. I know I spoke very fast and you may not have been able to understand some of the things I was saying, but all of these can be found on the BSA website, and they're, again, very self-explanatory. They go through how you fill it out, what you do, what you need, what are the requirements for specific things, and especially with the beyond the age of eligibility that we were just talking about, there is a way to code your son or daughter beyond the age of eligibility if they cannot complete their Eagle requirement by the time they're 18.
I think this would make an awesome University of Scouting class, like
Well,
just the adaptive technology.
What I was going to say is Mike Duff is on our Connecticut Rivers Council Training Committee. We are pushing to try to get more classes on special needs, and I'm going to be very emphatic and get my high horse here and really ride on it and say, let your district members know, let your training people know that you want these courses. Take them, get your family members out there to take them, get your staff to take them. They are so important. And those are the places where we can make the connections and help everybody understand and answer some of these questions and maybe build a better resource program. And we're reaching out to build connections with outside community resources such as NEAT, Oak Hill, the Hospital for Special Care. So many places we're trying to work with and support our scouting. And for those of you that are from different states, same thing, find your programs that do that and try to work with them if you can. It's a lot to take on. It's taken us years to get to this point, but let your training people know. And Mike is going to be hammering for that for our upcoming scouting. We don't have dates yet for Connecticut Rivers, but we're going to be looking at that and how do we do that? Sorry for me getting, I'm dismounting now. And I just want to say, if anybody wants to stay on, we can most certainly have some more conversations. I would love that. But my big thing is I wanted to thank so much Elena for coming and joining us tonight. It has been an immense pleasure. What an eye opener for, I think, a lot of us. I saw quite a few comments in the chat room. Carolyn, thank you again. So many people commented on yours. Mike, thank you. Thank you. Thank you to everybody who's been on here. Thank you very much. Sean, this is a shout out to you. Thank you for